We spend so much of our lives staring at these brilliant, colorful screens, right? But have you ever actually stopped to think about where all that light comes from? Well, the answer might surprise you. It's not the pixels, nope. It's a hidden, super clever system working completely in the dark. So let's pull back the curtain on this unsung hero of your display.
So what do you think it is? The pixels, the glass itself, maybe the processor doing all the work? I mean, yeah, those are all super important for sure. But today we're going to focus on the invisible engine that makes everything you see possible. It's the part that does all the heavy lifting in the dark and gets basically zero credit for it.
Okay, so here's the big secret, the thing most people don't realize. Unlike some other screen types you might have heard of, the liquid crystal pixels in an LCD screen, the ones on your phone, your monitor, your TV, they don't actually light up. Not at all. The best way to think of them is like tiny, really sophisticated window blinds. They can open and close to let light through and create colors, but they can't make any light themselves. Which means, of course, they need a really powerful light source sitting right behind them.
And that is where our unsung hero comes in. It's called the Backlight Unit, or BLU for short. You can think of it as the hidden power plant for your entire display. Its one and only job is to create a perfectly flat, perfectly even sheet of pure white light, so the LCD panel has something to work with. The question is, how on earth does it pull off such a crazy feat of optical engineering? All right, so step one. It all starts with the most basic challenge, just making the light. And, it's not as simple as just sticking a white light bulb back there. No way. It has to be incredibly efficient, it has to last for a really long time, and it has to make a very, very specific kind of white light.
The most common way they do this is just a brilliant little bit of applied physics. First, engineers start with a really energy-efficient blue LED. Then they take that tiny little chip and they coat it with a special yellow phosphor. What happens is the blue light from the LED shines on the phosphor and energizes it. It excites the atoms, and that makes the phosphor glow yellow. And for our eyes, that very specific mix of the original blue light and that yellow glow, well, it combines to look like pure, bright white light. It's pretty cool.
But, like with all engineering, there's a trade-off. That blue LED plus yellow phosphor trick, it's cheap and it's super, super efficient. That's why it's in almost everything. The downside, though, is that the white light it makes is a little weak on pure reds and greens, and that kind of limits the range of colors the screen can display. Now, to get a wider, more vibrant color range, you could just use separate red, green, and blue LEDs, but that's less efficient, and even worse, the different colors can actually age differently, which would totally mess up the screen's color balance over time.
Okay, problem one solved. We've made our white light. But now we've got a brand new puzzle. We've got these tiny, little, super bright points of light. But what we need is a giant, perfectly even sheet of light. So how do you do that? How do you spread that light out so there are absolutely no hot spots, no dim areas?
And this is where the real star of the show comes in. It's called the Light Guide Plate, or LGP. Just picture a totally clear slab of plastic, and think of it like a superhighway just for light. The LEDs are put right on the edge, and they just pump light into it. The LGP's whole job is to carry that light across its entire surface. But here's the thing. Its perfection actually creates a really interesting problem.
Yeah, this is where the physics gets kind of wild. Because the LGP is so clear and so smooth, any light that goes in gets trapped. It's a thing called total internal reflection. You've seen this in fiber optic cables. The light just bounces off the inside walls over and over again. It's stuck on the highway and can't get out and up towards our eyes. So get this, a perfect light guide plate would actually be useless. It would just shoot all the light out the other side and the screen would be totally dark.
So how do they fix this? Well, engineers have to basically break that perfection on purpose. It's so clever. They print this really precise pattern of tiny microscopic white dots on the bottom of the LGP. So now, when a ray of light is bouncing along and hits one of those dots, it shatters that perfect reflection. The light scatters everywhere, and some of that scattered light is now pointed at just the right angle to escape upwards. They've basically created microscopic exit ramps off our light highway, all pointed right at you.
And here is the truly brilliant part. To make sure the whole screen is perfectly even, that dot pattern isn't random at all. Right near the LEDs, where the light is the brightest, the dots are spread really far apart. But as you get farther away from the LEDs and the light starts to get a little weaker, the dots get closer and closer together. This perfectly calculated pattern makes up for the light getting dimmer, making sure that the same amount of light is kicked out at every single point on the screen. And that's what creates that perfectly seamless, even glow we take for granted.
Okay, so now we have light escaping from the whole surface. Great. But it's a mess. It's chaotic. It's going in every possible direction. To get a bright, punchy image, we need all that light pointing in one direction, straight at the viewer. So this is where the light goes to finishing school to get straightened out. To do that, there's a whole stack of special optical films sitting above and below the LGP. Think of it like a team of specialists, each with one very important job. Underneath everything, you've got a reflector film. Its job is to catch any stray light that goes down and bounce it right back up. No light wasted. Then, right on top of the LGP, there's a diffuser film. It's kind of like frosted glass. It smooths everything out and hides that dot pattern completely. And then, for the grand finale, you've got the brightness boosters, 2 layers of prism film. Now this is the final, absolutely critical step for getting maximum brightness. See, the light coming out of the diffuser is still spreading out at these really wide, inefficient angles. The prism films are covered in these microscopic sawtooth grooves, and they act like millions of tiny lenses. They grab all that scattered light and they bend it, focusing it all into one tight, powerful beam aimed right at your eyes. It's amazing. This one component can make the screen seem way, way brighter without using any extra power.
So this whole system we've just been talking about, this is what's called an edge-lit backlight. It's the reason our laptops and monitors can be so incredibly thin. But, technology never stands still. Our unsung hero is always evolving.
For example, on a lot of bigger TVs, they use a different method called direct lit. So instead of that clever light guide plate, they just put a whole grid of LEDs directly behind the screen. Yeah, it makes the TV thicker, but on a really big screen, it can actually give you better uniformity, and it's often cheaper to make. But at the end of the day, both systems are using the exact same principles of shaping and diffusing light to create that perfect canvas for the LCD to paint on.
Hey, remember that color problem we talked about at the beginning, the trade-off? Well, new tech is tackling that problem head-on. A lot of high-end displays now add something called a quantum dot film into that film stack. These are these amazing little nanoparticles that soak up the blue light from the LEDs, and then they spin it back out as incredibly pure red and green light. It's a super elegant solution to the color gamut problem, and it lets modern LCDs produce colors that are way more vibrant and realistic than ever before.
So when you put it all together, from creating white light out of blue, to guiding it down that wild optical highway, and finally focusing it all with millions of tiny prisms, you realize the backlight unit is this absolute masterpiece of engineering, doing all its work in total darkness. It really is the invisible, unsung hero that makes our entire digital world shine.